Hola clase, estamos en la última semana. La semana 11 tenemos un repaso, una prueba. Entonces voy a hablar un poco sobre lo que tienen que hacer esta semana. Estos son los temas que deben de estudiar antes de tomar la prueba. Esas son preguntas de repaso. Esas son las respuestas y también la prueba. Es la única cosa que tienen que hacer esta semana. También tienen la presentación oral, el final, y también el proyecto final, que es individual. Entonces, deben de estudiar los temas que hemos estudiado en esta clase. Vas a ver un poco de todo en la prueba de vocabulario. Vocabulario, geografía, clima, el cuerpo humano, enfermedades y remedios. Y eso es la mayoría del vocabulario que van a ver en la prueba, ¿no? So you aren't going to see much of this in the quiz 2 and 3, but número 1 sí. So lo que deben de estudiar, deben de estudiar gramática, el uso del infinitivo, siempre es bueno repasar. Por ejemplo, if you have antes de, without the K, you don't conjugate the verb, you just put desayunar. Y después de, without the K, nada más repites el verbo en su forma infinitivo. O también si dices quiero, and there's no K, también repites el verbo. O no puedo, al llegar, bailar, and then trabajar. So if there's not a K, of course you don't conjugate the next verb, and then sometimes you just use the infinitive. Bailar es una buena manera de hablar bajar de peso. So bailar, as the infinitive means dancing, is a good way to lose weight. That's what that means. Bien, so you should review el presente del subjuntivo. So when is it used? Weirdo y escapar. Those are both words that we made up, right, to help remember the meaning or the reason why we use a subjunctive. So weirdo is going to be, it's actually misspelled, but it's going to be wish, emotion, recommendation, impersonal expression, duda, doubt, and then ojalá. And then escapar, those all stand for an adverbial clause or phrase that trigger the subjunctive. And you should know cómo conjugar los verbos en el subjuntivo. Hay muchos irregulares, ¿verdad? Por y para, you'll see that on your quiz. Los pronombres de los objetos directos e indirectos, you'll see those. El condicional, you actually won't see that on there, but you'll see el presente perfecto. You'll see mandatos, just the informal commands, no? Nada más los mandatos informales. Okay, and so you actually, you aren't going to see imperfecto, el subjuntivo, el futuro on there either. So you'll just see what we covered in los capítulos 11 a 14. So anything in chapter 15 you won't see on your quiz. A good way to review this information is las preguntas de repaso. You don't have to meet with your Zoom group this week, but if you do, you could go through these. You review the preterite and the imperfect, present perfect here in the question. So embedded in all these questions is the use of the subjunctive. And then if you click next, you can see some answers that make sense for all of these questions. So that's a good thing to review before you take your quiz. And like I said, your quiz is available. You can take it anytime now between, the answers are, the 4th of December. So it's a Friday. It's due on a Friday night, which is different than what we've been doing. 66, so 66 points. It's the same format. They'll be broken down into topics. So it'll say all these next 5 questions are going to be talking about presente perfecto, present perfect. They'll have an example, and then half the quiz is multiple choice, and then half the quiz is fill in the blank. I recommend reviewing the subjunctive verbs. So those verbs would be, the majority of the fill in the blank is how to conjugate those. Okay? So you have your final quiz. Just a reminder, this falls under the category of a quiz. It's not really a final exam. It does have more points than all your other quizzes, but it's still going to be weighted into that 10% of your overall grade. So it's not really very heavily weighted. And also, if you review your previous quizzes, that's a good way to study for this. So you'll actually see some of the same questions on your previous quizzes on this quiz. So some that were missed quite a bit, you'll see them on here. Bien. This week, the rest of the week, of course, we have Feliz Día de Acción de Gracias. And then we have your final oral presentation and your proyecto final. Most of you guys have received an email from me telling you which group you're going to present your final oral presentation to. Just to review, if you have any questions about these instructions, you can always ask me. You're essentially choosing a topic from what we've studied. It can be anything, vocab, grammar. You're talking about it or explaining it for maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and then or maybe 2 to 3 minutes, maybe 5 minutes at the most, and then you're playing the game for the other 5 minutes. So the recording should be 10 minutes minimum for your final presentation. So this is the topics that we've studied. And then also this is the rubric of how you're graded. And also this is an individual grade, so that means that everyone in your group has to participate. So it's practicing your oral communication skills. So that means that you guys should all practice. If you're doing a game, you guys could take turns reading the clues or the pistas for the game that you're doing. You could have one person read the instructions or the directions, but make sure each person gets to participate. So the main thing, I'm just going to click on this so you can see it. The main thing that I'm going to be looking for is your ability to speak in Spanish for 10 minutes. So that's the majority of your grade. So comunicación. So speaking with your compañeros and then making sure you're understood. So if the group that you're working with doesn't understand you, how are you going to do that? You're going to have to communicate more to them, and then hopefully it should be in Spanish the whole time. So if you do that, if you speak for the allotted 10 minutes, you take the topic and make it creative, and then you do it with very few errors. You can still have errors and get 10, then you'll do well in this final presentation. You can see if there's long pauses, no use of English, you might get a little bit lower on your communication score. If you do use English, you might get a little bit lower. And if you use English and have long pauses, you will receive maybe less points on that. So this is up there as well if you want to look at how I'm going to be grading your final oral presentations. And you also have the last thing, which is also going to be individuals, who's going to be your proyecto final. So this is an individual final project. There's some examples here. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. And if not, nos vemos. See you guys soon.